Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Hardwood Hoops podcast. This is episode 28, and I'm joined by my very happy co-host, Mr. LeBron James fan club, Ben Jones.
Yes, he's done it. Number 4. Here we go.
How you doing, mate? How is life treating you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. It's slowly dawning on me, though, that the NBA has gone for a while.
Yeah, that is sad.
But no, it's good.
There's going to be a lot of exciting things to talk about, thankfully, between now and then. We're going to talk about at the end. We've got some cool episodes planned. And then before we know it, I'm sure next season will kind of jump out us out of nowhere.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's going to come flying around like everything has done this year.
Yeah, for sure. Even though there's all these lockdowns going on, the year has gone so fast, which is a crazy thing to think about.
Yeah.
But basketball has definitely helped that. And in terms of basketball, we do have a champion. Congratulations to the LA Lakers and any LA Lakers fans out there that are listening. We're going to start with talking about Game 6 specifically, and then moving on to like general themes of the finals and opinions on LeBron, Lakers, Kobe, stuff like that. So let's just start with Game 6. The worst finals game in all time? Question mark? What are your thoughts?
Depends which angle you're coming at, I guess. If you're
As
a
a
Lakers
neutral.
fan, as a neutral, yeah, pretty poor. It's so one-sided. As a Lakers fan, might just be the best final game you've ever seen, where you've absolutely crushed an opponent. As a Heat fan, probably the worst finals performance you might have ever seen because you got crushed by an opponent.
Yeah.
But generally, though, this finals has been really entertaining. Really, really good. I mean,
Yeah, I think so. This is definitely a one-off, isn't it?
Yeah, I've enjoyed every game that I've watched and every game I've seen so far. I just genuinely think they put everything into Game 5 and just ran out of steam. And that's it.
Yeah, the injuries were an issue as well, weren't they? All the way through, we banged on about it in every episode, and I think not that they wouldn't have won anyway, but in terms of the 4 games that the Heat lost, I think if they had been fully fit, either they wouldn't have lost all those 4. If they did, they'd have been closer games, especially this Game 6.
Yeah, definitely. They would have put up an even better fight than they have done. And it just came down to superstars being superstars, and the Heat only superstar really was absolutely shattered and couldn't do it all by himself anymore. And he needed the support crew of that Heat team, which that's what they've been so good at, just sharing the load massively. And your 2 big pillars, one completely injured. I'm surprised he even attempted to play this game in Goran Dragic.
Yeah, I'm surprised as well. It didn't look right at all, did he?
No. And Bam wasn't 100% through the whole series, so they were struggling from the word go, really.
Yeah, I agree. In Game 6, Jimmy played 45 minutes again, but only getting 12 points, and you just tell he just wasn't quite there. In the first 8 shots, I think they missed 1 open 3. They missed a pair of free throws, and they missed 2 layups. And that was kind of the catalyst for the game going forward, really. They got behind early. It kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
They actually won the last quarter of the Heat, 35-19, and the Lakers were still playing a lot of their starters, which is nuts. But a lot of that's just garbage time minutes. We also saw the worst player potentially in the NBA that's not called Mario Hezonja in Jared Dudley getting a minute off the bench. That was entertaining. In terms of player of the game, because we kind of did almost a player of the game for every single matchup, it's hard to look past LeBron James, obviously, but for me, Mr. Rajon Rondo, after a bit of a quieter Game 5, he came back in Game 6 with 19 points, and I don't have his final 3-point stat line, but I know he hit 3 of 3 in the first half. 3 from 4, yeah.
5%.
Yeah, so he made that list for me just because we said it so many times, they need someone else to score, one other player to score, and then if they get that, they're kind of off to the races for 100 points. If you can't score 110, you're not going to beat them. And that kind of happened in this game. In terms of the Heat, I can't even go Bam Adebayo because if you look at the stat line, he got 25 points. If you watch the game, I do not know where this 25 points came from.
Right.
Because the first half, he was awful.
I watched it back. The second half, especially that fourth quarter, they were literally just like, I'd rather Bam came inside and scored a 2 than we just lag off the Heat 3-point shooters and they keep shooting and making these buckets. So he was just getting buckets in the paint. Just they weren't guarding him at all. They were just letting him put shots up, then get
Garbage time
running down
stats.
the
Anyway.
clock. Yeah. They weren't bothered about him at all. There was just no defense inside. So that's where he racked those up.
So I'd probably give Goran my player of the game because I don't think anyone truly deserved it in that Heat performance, but he deserves it just for battling back from an awful injury, and you could tell he was playing with some pain. And he did get, I think, he got five rebounds, 5 points, a couple of assists in like 18 minutes. So I'll give it to him more for a moral victory on my end.
Yeah, it's difficult to give it to a Heat player because none of them played particularly well. So yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's completely fair. Like he was advised by all of his coaching staff to not play, and he just begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded, and he got a couple of minutes, and he played fine in those minutes. But it's just difficult to watch somebody hit what his potential is, and to go out and play the way he did. It's so hard to watch because you're willing him to do so much better than he is, and you just know he can't.
Yeah, it did look a bit uncomfortable, but I admire him for even giving it a go.
What were your thoughts on the Lakers changing that starting lineup for this game? Do you think that was like, right, we're taking this serious, we're going for the kill in this one? Do you think it needed to be done? Do you think it was just a headline? What was your take?
I don't think it needed to be done to win them the game because I think the two stars can do that without the change. But I just think Dwight Howard's so past it now that it was a bit more of a morale booster, and it meant that they came out the traps flying defensively because they couldn't just pick on Dwight like they did in the game before.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably made a little bit of difference to how they started because Dwight doesn't play loads of minutes, but the first quarter the Heat kind of got off to a couple of good starts in the games before, so it kind of slowed that start down. And it just made them a better team because, like I said, Dwight's past it now. But I wouldn't have put any money on them to not win the series, if that makes sense, if he'd have started both games. I still think with 2 games to go, they were still heavy favourites. But any advantage you can get in the finals is good. What about you?
Yeah, I think it's a better lineup for the Lakers in terms of what kind of boundaries the Heat present. They like to share the ball. They like to move the ball. They can move quickly. And Caruso physically matches up better with the kind of players they're putting out there than Dwight ever will against the Heat. So I think it was a really good move from them, like you said, to try and shut down that early, fast-paced start the Heat usually get out to. Because the Lakers seem to have been trailing in every game this finals and either come back and won or it's been a close finish and the Heat have pipped it. So good decision, but I agree with you. I don't think that is the reason they won the game. Do you think Caruso being the 5th man in this lineup, is that their best lineup at the moment? Oh, well, actually, it's definitely not, is it? Because Danny Green's in there.
I don't know. It's so hard because we're going to spend time talking about the Lakers initially, but I don't even think they're that good of a team. It's crazy. I think they're good defensively and they got 2 superstars. So I don't know if Caruso is their best lineup. Do you know what I mean? I think they finish a lot of time with their best lineup when they put Rondo in there as well. But obviously they don't start with him. Yeah. So I think it's a good lineup to start with. But like I said, when they finish, a lot of the time they put Rondo in there depending on the matchup. So it really depends how you look at it. A lot of teams don't always start their best players. You know what I mean? They want to finish with their best players. I would say it's better than the Dwight lineup. Is Rondo better than Caruso? Potentially, yeah. But obviously he doesn't play as many minutes. So I think it's a bit of a toss-up between the two there. And like you said, Mr. Danny Green, in years past, he would have been the Lakers' clear 3rd best player for me. But his inconsistency this year, I'm just like, is it great for him to be in the starting 5? Is it not? I don't really know. And his contract was a lot bigger than I thought. I knew he got a good deal, but when I looked at it, I was like, it's a little bit overpriced. I don't know if he had a 2 or 3 year deal as well, but he's on the roster for this year. I know that.
Yeah, he. If I was the Lakers, I'd be seeing testing the market, what's out there.
Yeah, trade piece, you think?
Yeah, while he's got a tiny bit of value left, and just hope none of the owners have watched this finals. But
whilst we're on that topic of trade pieces, we won't go into too much detail because we do want to praise them for this season and not jump to next season too much. But a little bit of a rumour about Chris Paul today, being a Lakers fit with the whole banana boat crew. Even though LeBron's done my guy Melo dirty twice now by not signing him as a free agent, but whatever. Do you think that's something that can happen or not? I'm in the no camp. We spoke about this off air, just because they can't get anywhere near to clearing the salary space for him without getting rid of like every player. And they haven't got enough assets, I don't think, for OKC to want to do it. OKC don't need to panic because they've got so many picks already. They can just take the best deal. So for me, I don't see it happening. But Danny Green would need to be in the trade for it to happen. What are your thoughts? Do you see it happening, or do you just think it's just paper talk?
Yeah, there's no chance. It's just one of those things. Every year it happens, doesn't it? Oh, LeBron wants to play with one of his friends. Obviously, he wants to play with one of his friends, but logistically, can it happen? No. Logistically, would it work? Also, probably not. When you look at the way the Lakers set up, having Rondo off the bench leading the second unit is perfect. That's when you need that strong point guard role. You don't really need it with the starting lineup when LeBron is out there and Anthony Davis is out there. You need somebody that can move with the ball, bring it up the court if needed, but they need to be more of a shooter than anything. And I don't expect Chris Paul to want to give up the ball. We know he's a dribble-heavy point guard and likes to run the show because that is what he does. He's good at it. It'll be a waste, I think, if he came to the Lakers. And on what you said, you're looking at to get him like a package of Danny Green, Pope, and Kuzma and picks, which they don't have anymore.
Yeah, you probably got to put Bradley in there as well.
Yeah, and it's just not going to happen. There's no way they can make this happen, and there's no way I don't think, like you said, OKC would accept anything they offer because I just don't think they can
be good enough for them.
Yeah,
it's a lot of older players which OKC aren't going to do. But we're going to talk a little bit about some Lakers stuff, extension contract wise in a bit. So let's jump back to the finals then. 17th title or 12th, depending on who you listen to. I'm in the 12th title campaign. But absolutely huge for Laker Nation. Obviously, it's always huge to win a title, but in a year so sporadic and strange where we didn't know what was going to happen. Just for the fan base, Ben, what do you think it means to them? And what were your opinions on the scenes we saw after all the amazing celebrations and stuff?
This could be potentially one of, if not the most meaningful championship for the Lakers, given everything that happened at the beginning of the season with Kobe. It's one of those things, like there's so many little neat things that have sort of tied together. Was it LeBron's 17th season or like you said, whoever you listen to, the 17th trophy for the Lakers, LeBron making that promise to Kobe that he will make the Lakers a great team again, and the year that he passes away in that tragic accident, the Lakers win the championship and LeBron leads them to it and does his bit. And whilst he's doing that, he's overcoming his previous team. Like it's just the perfect sort of fairy tale ending for this Lakers franchise this season.
Yeah, the team he got his first title with as well.
It's
just like bit of a historic thing, isn't it, to come back all the way back around and then do it with a new team. But yeah, I agree completely. I think historically, we'll talk a little bit about Kobe now. What it means to the fans more probably than anything, to close friends, people like Pau Gasol, who've obviously been champions of this team and supporting them from afar as he's uncle to Kobe's kids or godfather to Kobe's kids.
Yeah.
Just things like that you just see, and like Kobe's wife's messages to the team before it all started. The tributes on the jerseys, which we mentioned before, that I really liked, with him and his daughter's numbers. Obviously, LeBron wears 24, like finger tag for shooting the ball. Little things like that, just little touches. Obviously, the 8-second and 24-second violations we were doing earlier in the season. In terms of a Kobe legacy, I think it's really, really nice and historic. And if you believe in things like karma and stuff like that, like there wasn't really another winner this year, you know.
No.
in terms of a story, in terms of a city or a set of fans that deserve it after losing Kobe, and more for Kobe himself, to be honest. He's also the one that's fallen foul of this rather than anyone else. So
Yeah.
just to do it for him and for his family and his girls and stuff, I just think that's a real special thing. And a lot of Lakers fans obviously idolized him to a point that me and you, who are not obviously Lakers fans, or we love Kobe, but we're not like, he's not our only like favorite icon of all time.
No.
Like for people that is, like this means so much. Like it means so much to his legacy, to his memory.
Yeah.
And I think that's quite a special sports moment in a year that, without swearing, has been pretty poor for most people in the world.
Yeah. That's a nice, subtle way of putting it.
Yeah, we're trying to keep a PG pod.
And I think for the Lakers as well, whatever they previously thought of, like LeBron or Anthony Davis, or even Rondo coming from the Celtics.
Yeah, true. Or Dwight Howard.
Yeah, and Dwight Howard after his previous, for them to group together, to pull together, and sort of put this run together, it's just amazing, and that is the catalyst, I think, that also helped them mold and focus and zero in on exactly what it is they want to do. And like I said, as a Lakers fan going forward, you may not ever put LeBron in one of your greatest Lakers categories because he may not be there for like a massive amount of time. But what he and the team have done this season will go down in history as one of the most memorable championships in terms of Lakers nation ever.
Yeah, I agree. I think if just on a Kobe side as well, I think obviously LeBron kind of adding to his legacy to not be on par with Kobe, but if people start naming like top 5 Lakers of all time and LeBron carries on doing well and has the championship this year, that like gets him in that conversation. He could be on like an all-time 5 with Kobe, which would be special to him as well. So I just think in general that's really special. And in terms of a basketball fit, obviously they were the best in the West pretty much all the year. Clippers had a couple of spells where they looked the best, but record-wise they weren't. They were the strongest in not the first game of every series, but every other game in every series. They looked like the strongest or second strongest playoff contender because the Heat were pretty dominant over Milwaukee, to be fair.
Hugely.
So in terms of earning it, like not always the best team doesn't win. And like I said, I've kind of struggled to see how they're so good. But when you realise that they probably got 2 top 5, top 6 players, we made our lists. And for me, Giannis and Kawhi would be dropping down the lists the way they've played. And someone like AD's really, really like confirming himself in that top 4, top 5, top 6, depending on what you do. And to have 2 top 6 players playing in one team together, especially against a team that hasn't got any top 6 players. I just think maybe, as hard as it is for Heat fans to hear, the right team won in that sense as well. It's not all legacy and emotion stuff. There's a basketball sense where this team deserved it as well.
Yeah, definitely. They've put the work in this season, and I named a few players there. Who would have thought a team made up of these players would it even be close to a championship, let alone
not me
be dominant in a league and be top of your conference going into the finals and be dominant in some games with it. I think Anthony Davis has really shown his true colours and what a force he can be. It's just consistency with him, isn't it? It's just getting that in, game out.
And the fit as well with LeBron, he's kind of proved as well, which not everyone would have doubted, obviously, but they've outshone expectation.
Yeah. For me, lots of people have been saying, oh, well, now Anthony Davis knows the lineup's better with him at the centre. Is he going to commit to it? I still don't think he is, because for him to play 82 games at a position he doesn't really want to play is completely different to him playing crunch time minutes, putting the best lineup on the floor in a game that really matters. I think they will still have players like Dwight and JaVale around to play regular season minutes at the centre, but then, as they've done here, going into playoffs and finals, those minutes will switch. And I think that's probably the best way to do it because it keeps Anthony Davis happy and fresh for the important games.
Yeah, I agree that he is the best fit there, but you aren't going to keep players around long term if you play them in a position they hate. And it's hard because you want them to listen to their coach and play a position that they say is best for the team. But there's a little bit of player power and player happiness, and LeBron's kind of championed that. So when you're on a LeBron team, it's a bit weird to then say to your other star, "No, you got to do exactly what we tell you." When you kind of give LeBron a bit of a leash to help run the team or run the offense, you know. So I think they'd be big hypocrites if they then just say to their second best player, "Oh yeah, you can't play the position you want anymore because we think you're better at centre." I
Yeah,
just don't think that would work. And I agree with you that in the regular season, they're going to win games with him playing power forward against someone who's probably not as good at centre, someone like a Howard, just because that's the regular season. Like good teams can take parts of nights off and still win. That's what makes a good team a good team. But I think playoff time, we're going to see more of him at centre next year. I think
yeah,
we're going to go on to discuss it a bit, but the West's going to be harder again next year. And I think in certain playoff series, they're going to need to go balls to the wall almost and best lineup available a little bit more often and kind of get, even if they get another centre, not Howard, but kind of play AD at centre a little bit more. But again, that's for next season. And then in terms of finals MVP, obviously, your boy. We left this to last because he's your boy. He won MVP, unanimous MVP.
yeah.
We said it was the right decision. I can always see someone else getting a vote because voting is just voting. Everyone has their own bias. But on this occasion, similar to when Kevin Durant did it the first time, it was unanimous. Happy to see that it was unanimous. And obviously, it adds another notch to his legacy. And also, do you think maybe this was his best finals of all time? Because I probably think it might be.
It makes sense that he got unanimous MVP. I was a little surprised. I sneak one vote. You can't count Jimmy out just for what he's done and contributed to his team. Like his playoff performance has been incredible. But yeah, I think it's amazing for LeBron, and it's the only championship he's ever won where his team's led the whole way. He's not come back from a deficit in the finals. So it's definitely helped his legacy. 3 teams, 4 championships, and 3 finals MVP or 4 finals MVPs is phenomenal for any player and any player's legacy. Like you cannot. I think I like put a message out afterwards. No matter what you think of him, what he's done on and off the court is incredible. He keeps shattering records left, right, and centre, and is an advocate for some incredible organisations and things he's pushing. And he's just an incredible player. And like whatever you think of him, it needs to be a point where you're like just enjoy what he's doing and the things he's doing because there will not be another player like him for generations again. So yeah,
Would you agree with my potential thought that it could be the best finals I've seen, like his performance wise, not the teams, but his performance ever? Because he shot his best percentage, and obviously he got his second most assists, I think, and defended well throughout.
Yeah, it's a really tricky one to call because stats wise, it is probably his best finals ever. But in terms of achievements, sort of with teams he's played and things he's overcome, that the coming from 3-1 down was huge, especially against Golden State.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's never been done before. You can't fault that performance. Was it him and Kyrie back to back 40-point games, both of them? Like no teammates have ever done that. There's you could pick anything like from his what championship was that? I can't remember which Heat one it was. That game 6, that whole series against Boston, he was absolutely incredible and played out of his skin. So there's moments from every championship run, but on paper, this is potentially his stats-wise, his best one yet. And I think that's because of the matchup. There was no one out there that could deal with him or AD, and it showed.
Yeah, I'm in the camp that, well, I thought before we had this chat, actually, you might have changed my mind, that it was his best finals. But yeah, the 3-1 thing, even though I'm in the camp of, obviously, if Draymond wasn't banned for that game, they would have done it. But when you look at the totality of the team and what that meant, that might have been a better finals. But this one was certainly up there. Yeah, and I just think that fair play to them as an organisation for coming together. They were one of the teams that kind of not wanted to stop, but they had big discussions about stopping, didn't they, when the whole Black Lives Matter movement kind of re-kicked off again. And they came back together and secured it. So a big shout out to them. And the guys at Lakers UK who deal with us quite a lot on Twitter, big shout out to those guys, because obviously they're fans, and then it means a lot more to them than it will mean to most people. So yeah, big congratulations to any Lakers fan. I think you'd agree on that one, mate.
Yeah, definitely well deserved, and I hope they're all enjoying it.
Yeah, we don't know how long, we're going to talk about in a minute, how long they're going to have to celebrate, because we haven't got a confirmed date for next season. But I'm sure they're going to celebrate as much as humanly possible after a hell of a long season, the longest season of all time, to be fair. But let's move on a little bit. I'm sure we'll talk about the Lakers a lot throughout the off-season. Let's move on to next year, Ben. So championship, before we move on to championship, the season looks like, touch wood, that it's going to start on January the 18th, which is MLK Day, which is another bank holiday in America. So they kind of still get the full day of games slate.
Yeah.
They wanted to start on Christmas Day originally, so reports read. Well, the 1st of December and on Christmas Day, they were both linked. They're going to miss out, it looks like, on Christmas Day, so they want to start on MLK Day if they can, to kind of get as many games in one day. We don't know that for sure, but if that happens, that'll be good. It'll be good for us because we'll get early basketball. And then in terms of that season, we've got some championship odds. So I'm going to read out to you, Ben, the top 6, maybe 6 or 7. And if there's any teams you want to ask about, I can tell you their odds just so people know. And all these odds from Odds Checker, by the way, people. If you do any betting on the NBA, you should use their website because they tell you which company has the best odds. You don't want to be betting on a team at one website when there's another website you could join that gives you way better odds. So just a little bit of a shout out there. The reigning champions, the Lakers, are top, Ben, at 10-3. The Clippers are second favourites for the title at 11-2. The Bucks are third favourite at 13-2. Golden State, best odds at fourth favourite, are 8-1. The Nets, which some people are a little bit surprised about, are fifth favourites at 12-1, and then the Celtics are also 12-1, and then the Heat just behind at 16-1. Initially, obviously, odds-wise, what are your thoughts on some of those teams? And are there any other teams you want to ask about that I can give you the odds on?
Where are the Nuggets? They interest me.
They're a little bit behind everyone else, and they're 8th. But after you get past 6, the odds go in your favour a lot. Don't want to sound like I'm from the Hunger Games, but the odds are in your favour. Denver Nuggets, you can get at 25-1.
Wow.
£10 on would win you £260. Quick maths for you there.
Nice.
You like those odds, don't you?
It's quite good. They are going to improve on the season they've had, so they could be a little nice outside bet for you. Celtics are always quite a good one. I think you can't ever count them out, especially the way they've been playing.
In the East as well, aren't they? Weaker conference. And a lot of these places people let you do each way. So basically, whoever finishes first and second will still win you money.
No.
So if you pick an Eastern team, obviously, that one you're going to always have one East, one West person in the finals. So the Eastern Conference teams outside of the Bucks are quite good odds. So you can kind of give yourself a little bit more of a chance. Whereas if you pick a West team with long odds, they've got to beat like both LAs and the Warriors. So it's a bit of a tougher run.
I know, they've not lost players and stuff, but they are coming back from lots of injuries. I'm surprised Golden State have shot straight up into that. Was it 4th place?
So they're 4th at 8-1, which is a bit annoying because in America, this is English odds, obviously, because we're an English-based pod. In America, you could not. They've gone down today, but as of last week, you could have got them at 14-1. So what that shows you is a lot of British people, because they do change the odds based on how much money we're betting. A lot of British people, Ben, are betting on the Warriors. I think that's a clever bet. I bet on the Warriors about 3 months ago when the look ahead lines came out. I got them at 10-1. But yeah, I think English bettors like the Warriors. And in terms of total bets, right? This is in Europe. The Warriors have had the most amount of bets placed on them out of any team at 37% of total bets. The Nets are at second with 22%. And the Lakers are at third at 20%. Then the Bucks are down at 4%. So you've got three huge favourites there. And then the other category is 17%. And obviously the others include, obviously, every other team.
Yeah.
So the Clippers not being in that top four doesn't shock me, but obviously they're second favourite. So that shows there's a little bit of a disparity there. And that kind of proves what you just said as well when you were a little bit shocked about the Warriors. Not only are the odds good for top four, but most people are betting on them, Ben. So that is showing a lot of faith from the betting public there.
Wow. Is it the names and the current climate attached to Golden State? You know, people not in the sort of NBA know-how, if you will, not that don't follow it religiously, thinking, "Oh yeah, I know the Warriors and Steph Curry's there. They're quite good, aren't they? I've chuck some money on. Why not? The odds are quite good at the moment." Or do you think people are just genuinely thinking, "Yeah, Clay and Steph will be back 100%. Anthony Wiggins is going to be incredible wing defender this season. Draymond Green, he's a world-class player. He's not old and past it and can't really play very well anymore. Let's put loads of money on them."
It's probably a bit of both. I'm in the second camp. I think they're the best team by far. I struggled watching this finals and the level of some of the basketball compared to what the Warriors and the Cavs, to be honest, actually, against each other were playing a few years ago.
Yeah.
At times, the disparity was a little bit obvious to me, just in terms of the amount of talent that was on the floor at times.
Yeah.
So I'm in the second camp. They're my favourites. Then I'd find so there's different odds. You can get odds to win the conference, obviously the West, and you can get odds on the title. They're actually worse odds for the West, which I would agree with, because they're gonna take regular season games off. When you've won that many games, I can't see the Warriors getting a 1 seed. I don't think they'll be as motivated as the Lakers and the Clippers. Like the Clippers are going to be really motivated this year to win the West. But when it comes to actual playoff basketball, that's when I just think they're going to be absolutely deadly. And these are early lines. And they've obviously got a trade exception, a mid-level exception, Wiggins, who they could trade if they want, the second pick in the draft, who they could trade or use. Rumors of Cousins, does he want to go back on a minimum? So I just think there's a lot of unknowns there that help people in terms of the odds. And I just think when you can get a team that's been that good at 8-1, then it's good. For example, if you put £100 on at 8-1, you win 900 back. In the old days, when they were favourites, if you put £100 on, you'd win 180 back. So you'd win 80 quid profit. Now you win 800. So I think the odds do attract people as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But the Nets being the second most bet team, that is a surprising one, just because of there's a lot to change there. And I'm kind of going to ask you two questions, and I'll give you mine, then we'll move on. Before the off-season stuff, obviously, so I'm not going to hold you to this next year. Just an early shout. Out of the East and West, which would be your favourite to bet on in terms of winning an NBA title? One favourite of each, and then I'll get you to do one sleeper pick as well, so one outsider.
For me, the West is still the Battle of LA. On paper, I still think the Clippers have a better roster. They just lack so much leadership.
But we have some news we're going to talk about in a minute that might help that.
Yes. So I'm going to ride the Laker high at the moment. Let's go Lakers next season.
Oh, God, here he goes already. Let's cancel this podcast. And then your favourite from the East, out of the top favourites, who'd you like the most? Is it the Celtics, like you said earlier?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Celtics. I like the way they're playing. I like the way Jalen and Tatum have improved. And I also just don't think the Bucks have quite got enough to do it at the moment.
Fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough. And then in terms of sleeper picks, so anyone outside those top 4 or 5, who would you put your money on? One from the East, one from the West, as a bit of an outsider. Would it be the Nuggets, like you mentioned earlier, from the West?
I do quite like the Nuggets or the Jazz. Those kind of teams that would be my sort of two fringe teams from the West.
Well, the Jazz you can get 42 to 1, so that's good odds.
Yes.
And then the East, who's a bit of an outsider?
East is a lot harder because
Depends if you class the Nets as an outsider, but you can't really when they're the fifth favorite.
no, there's just such a huge drop off in the East, isn't there? Just into let's go
We've got
76ers.
also 42 to 1. You banged out
Woo!
240 pluses there. That's good. We'll get the bets on tonight.
Yeah, maybe with the new coach and stuff, they'll who knows? Who knows?
Well, they're a bit like the Warriors. That they could make a lot of moves in the offseason that change that team so much that you've got a lot of value by betting on them now. So yeah, it's clever. Obviously I've kind of led my hand earlier. I'm going the Warriors all day. If I can get 8 to 1 on one of the best players I've ever seen play in Steph Curry, I don't mind those odds. In the East, I'm with you. We're kind of a joint Bucks not hatred. That's strong, but don't see them as championship team.
No,
So
I like Giannis and I want him
Yeah,
to
I
win
like
a
Giannis too.
championship. I
Don't
can't
see
see
it.
the roster he's got and the coaching he's got.
No, I agree. I'm going to go with the team that I guys for being so high up. I'm going to go with the Nets. They've got the best player in the world. Not one of the best, like Steph. They got the best. They got Mr. KD. So I'm going to go with them, but they are going to be a very hit and miss team. They're either going to be number 1 seed and go all the way to the finals and play whoever from LA or Warriors, or they're going to be like 6th seed and lose in the first round. I just think they're going to be one way or the other. There's not going to be like a really good season. It's either going to be great or underachieving. In terms of the other odds, go on.
Quick question on our sort of our chosen supporting teams. I'm doing air quotes here as I say it. What are the Mavs looking like? And
Mavs and Cavs.
Mavs and Cavs, yeah.
I will tell you now. Well, that leaves me on well because they were going to be my outsider for the West. Because obviously, I'm going to choose the Mavs. You can get the Mavs at 28 to 1. So the Jazz, for example, obviously a lot shorter. They're just behind the Nuggets, basically, very slightly on all the betting companies. So they are the 5th favorite in the West. So the 5th seed would be what they'd get at the moment. And the Cavs, you can get the Cavs at 500 to 1. So worth a quid.
I'm going to chuck a quid in there, yeah. Andre Drummond.
Might trade for LeBron. Yeah, so I'll go the Mavs as my outsider for the West and East. I don't want to say the same as you, really, even though I do think the 76ers are 40 to 1 are good. I'm going to go with the Raptors because I think they could make a trade and shock a few people, and they're just consistent, aren't they? And some of the East teams are just so inconsistent. So I'll go Raptors at 20 to 1, which I think is pretty good odds for someone who's won the title 2 years ago.
Nice. Like that.
Cool. All right, let's move on from the championship odds and talk about some of the latest news. And then we're going to go on to talk about the open coaching jobs and who we think is going to get what job. And then we'll see how many we get right whenever they get announced. So latest news, a little bit on AD. He is opting out, Ben. He's leaving LA. No, he's not really. He's opting out to extend for a longer term deal. The Lakers have $25 million in cap space at the moment. But obviously, they can go over that into luxury for signing for whatever. And that's why I don't think the Paul trade will happen, because if he takes a max, you're talking, I think it's 38 million in year 1. So you're already 13 million over then before we've traded for anyone. And that's without us knowing what the cap's going to do. So rather than just opting in for one more year with LeBron, he's kind of going to extend. I think he's going to, we don't know how long yet because it's not out. I think he's going to extend really long term, and he's going to try, his aim is to be the next star after LeBron, kind of Shaq and Kobe-esque. Whereas once Shaq left, Kobe was then the true number 1. I think that AD might do a 4 or 5 year deal, and obviously LeBron might still be there. But if he's not, you're the number one player in one of the biggest markets in the world.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to do that. A lot of people think he might just do a 3-year deal, kind of match LeBron, and then he can go where he wants. But I think he's going to do three or 5. What are your thoughts on him opting out and coming back in to take more money for a longer time?
Makes sense for him, really, to get that longer term deal, especially with the injury concerns he's had. I think it's better that he locks up a longer term contract for himself than anything else. Good for the Lakers. They're locking up a potential superstar for a longer period of time. I think he'll go 4-year deal with a 3rd-year player option.
Okay.
So he's got, if something goes wrong or LeBron leaves or something changes, he's got an option to got a get out option basically. But I think you're completely right. I think LeBron will stay until he retires, and sort of slowly take more and more of a backseat as Anthony Davis grows into the role of being the lead superstar, and they will build around that basically. I think that's their future set, which is good, promising.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good for him as well to increase that money because, like you say, he's got a bad injury record, hasn't
he? Yeah.
All right, cool. On to the next piece of news then. Mr. Ty Lue, Ben. Do you want to take this one away?
Oh, yes. He's finally landed a team. So, Ty Lue has...
A team for a long time.
Yeah. So, Ty Lue has landed with the Clippers. I don't know if you've got the full contract talk there.
Well, it's a 5-year deal. No options. Straight 5-year deal.
Yeah, so he's with the Clippers now, and I think that is what they need because they are, like I said earlier, lacking in leadership. And we know he's very good at dealing with superstars and personalities on a team, and the Clippers is just rife with personalities, and they need someone to sort of rein in and hone it in. So this, I think, is quite possibly the best place for him. I think they'll have massive respect for him. He's got that relationship with Kyrie. So fingers crossed, this is a great place for him. Any thoughts your end?
Well, you said relationship with Kyrie, but he's at the Clippers, so what does that matter about Kyrie?
Oh, sorry, yeah.
You mean Kawhi?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did mean Kyrie, but yeah, he's not there. I got him mixed up. My Clippers and my. He's just good with superstar players, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I think my mic cut out a little bit at the start. So what I was trying to say earlier was he signed a 5-year deal, no options, no money, as kind of reported, but rumors are it would be the highest paid player in the highest paid coach in the league, or one of the top 2 or 3. So my thoughts are he's a better coach than people think. He's actually quite a good tactician. And the LeBron stuff kind of dragged him down a bit, with the whole LeBron runs the team sort of thing.
Yeah.
But he is a good motivator. He's dealt with stars, I agree. I only think it's a bad deal because I don't think the Clippers should be signing anyone to a 5-year deal when they could lose Kawhi and Paul George next year. Because I just think they could end up paying a coach off and cost themselves a lot of money. But I think whilst Kawhi and Paul George are there, it's an amazing deal. I think he's probably one of the better coaches you could get. And that's kind of proved true in the betting odds. He was favourite for nearly every job that we're going to talk about in a minute. Ty Lue a month ago was the favourite.
Yeah.
So I think that says a lot about how in demand he is. And NBA GMs know a lot more than me and you about how good a coach is. And if everybody thinks he was the best and every analyst and every reporter kind of pinned him to a lot of the jobs, that proves that he is a top candidate. So I think it's good for a year or 2. I just worry about giving him 5 years financially, but he turned down the Lakers because of money. So I think that they kind of had to give him whatever he wanted just to get them to join. And a little adage to this, Chauncey Billups is joining his staff, Ben, as number 1 assistant, the lead assistant.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good addition?
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of that move. Again, just somebody that these players are going to respect and going to respond to. We know he can be a bit of a leader and be a strong presence. He's done the dirty work, the grit and the grind. He's got a championship under his belt, and he can teach Kawhi to have a better voice. He can teach Paul George to be a leader from the front and not lead after the fact, if that makes sense. So,
makes sense, yeah. And maybe quieten some other voices down that are too loud. Kind of get that balance right.
Exactly, because there are some chatty people on that team that have no reason to chat.
Yeah, I would agree. So I think they could extend. They've both got player options, I believe, next year. So, like I said, that's why I think for 2 or 3 years it could be a really good deal. But if they walk away in either 1 or 2 years from free agency, you're going to have Ty Lue there with no superstars, no draft picks at all because they've got none. At that point, I wonder why someone who's regarded as high as he would want to stick around, and you could have to buy him out. But he could also be there for a rebuild. Like, he would have to leave. They wouldn't fire him, so we'll have to see how that goes. But I think for them to try and win a championship, he was one of their better options. So good move for them. A little bit of Nets news now. My boy Dirk turns down the Nets job. Apparently, he was approached by Steve Nash to be an assistant, and he turned them down, and with the reason that he would only want to be a coach for the Mavs. So I wonder if that's going to happen this season, because if he's already been asked and considering jobs and turning them down, I wonder if he's just ready to come back now. And if he is and he wants to join the Mavs aren't going to say no.
No.
So that's a little bit of news. And then on the same track, they've approached Mike D'Antoni. If he doesn't get a head coaching job, they've approached him to be an assistant for the Nets and help Steve Nash in his first year. I'm not sure. Obviously, I don't know him personally, so I don't know how well he'd cope being an assistant coach. But in terms of basketball mind, with a first-year head coach and experience, I think D'Antoni would be an incredible lead assistant for Steve Nash.
It could go either way, couldn't it? He could be that massive, like, hugely supporting character that obviously Steve Nash knows him really well, or could he then be? Could he possibly be massively influenced by what D'Antoni brings in, and not play a system that maybe he wants to put in to the full extent?
But that system suits that he's played before. Does suit KD being the 4 or 5 of Kyrie as the point guard.
Yeah, it could.
So it's difficult, isn't it?
It's a really be interesting. And would Mike D'Antoni be willing to almost? I know it's not really in this kind of NBA world, but it's kind of like a step down, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, but I think because there's no salary cap for coaches, he'd be paid very well as an assistant. And without sounding too morbid for Mr. Nash's job, your benefit is if they fire him and you're the head assistant, you're very much in, aren't you, in terms of potentially winning a job.
Yes.
It could be a fast track, to a coaching job. So I think that it could be a great move. If it happens, we don't know. Obviously, D'Antoni has aspirations to be a head coach still. So it's kind of wait and see on that one. And kind of linked to Mr. D'Antoni. I didn't know that I wrote down this order so well. It links very well. I'm very proud of myself.
Oh, well done.
D'Antoni obviously left the Rockets, and so has Daryl Morey. The GM has stepped down. I think he's got like a 70% win record at Houston, which is nuts. They've been to the West Finals twice. They got to the second round twice. He's won hard in MVP, second in MVP, third in MVP since he's been there. But he has stepped down. Kind of D'Antoni's gone. He's gone. It's a new era in Houston. Rumors are that NFL teams want Daryl Morey because he's kind of an analytics genius. We all know the Rockets kind of focus on analytics, and whether it's pretty or not, he kind of knows the data to get wins, and that's going to carry over to most sports. He's also been mentioned for soccer jobs, as it would be. But whether we don't really like Houston for the way they played, but I don't think you can discount Morey as a winner. So I think whoever gets him next will be impressive. But they've replaced him with Raphael Stoneben, who is vice president of basketball operations. He steps up, and this leads on to a little general Rockets story where a lot of people think the Rockets owner doesn't want to spend any more money. He doesn't like being in the luxury tax. He doesn't want to waste money on coaches. Do you think this is kind of just a fresh start? And kind of think Raphael Stone's the man, or you think it's just a fresh start and they want to save money, so they're going to give Stone a go?
It all fits the narrative, doesn't it? Like
Yeah,
Daryl Morey was massively into the system, a huge D'Antoni supporter, and publicly came out and said priority number one is to keep him, and
yeah,
that goes against ownership. So he wasn't going to last. And whoever they get into coach next is going to need a completely. Is going to be putting it in a completely different system. There's already rumours out there that they're going to try and trade for Joel Embiid, and I think that the owner seems to want to save face and save money and do whatever's the sort of easiest option at the time. So I don't really know what he's going to bring to the table making this change because I don't really know much about him.
but they haven't got a coach yet, so it's up in the air a lot, isn't it?
Which makes it even harder to tell. But I know Daryl Morey will be snapped up by most other teams in the league if he stays around in basketball.
Yeah, it seems like he might have the pick. He might want to break, That's a long run. He's been in a few deep runs with Houston with a lot of heartbreak at the end of them.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he'll want to break or not. But a lot of rumors are kind of surfacing about James Harden could get traded because obviously Morey brought him there and they're close. Whether Morey ends up somewhere else and trades for Harden, that'd be interesting. An Embiid Harden trade would be very, very exciting for the 76ers because he would fit so well with Ben Simmons. I think the Rockets would be awful with Westbrook and Embiid, but I think that Harden and Simmons could be good, but we'll have to see if anything happens.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, we'll do a trade episode and stuff like that going forward. Any breaking news, but we'll have to see. Talk about the Rockets as well. Now we're going to go on to our coaching jobs. We're going to kind of pick who's going to get what job and see how many we get right. And we're going to carry on talking about Houston. So in terms of candidates, Ben, I kind of got the betting odds again. I've got the list. I haven't got the odds written down, but I've got the favourites. So for the Rockets, John Lucas, who is an assistant coach already with the Rockets, been there for a long time. He's the favourite at the moment. Apparently, he's already had an interview. It's gone well. Mm-hmm. That kind of fits the narrative of saving money again. I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, but that does fit that narrative. Sam Cassell, who's the Clippers assistant, who was heavily linked to the Clippers job, but obviously lost out to Ty Lue. He's second favourite. Jeff Van Gundy, who gets linked to a lot of jobs, but apparently, the Van Gundy's one of them at least could actually get a job. There's been some positive interview news around them. And then not the last one, but the next one, there's no real other rumours, but Nate McMillan, who I know you like, obviously ex-Pacers coach, is coming in. A lot of the rumours do seem to be focusing on Lucas and Cassell. And the other rumour was that Ty Lue was, well, to be honest, we're going to talk about 4 jobs. Ty Lue was favourite for all 4, apart from OKC. So all these teams have been disappointed and kind of led to them having new favourites now. Who do you think fits the Rockets most? Any other names as well, I guess, if you wanted. And who do you think will get the job? I want to ask you that for each team.
I think, like you've pointed out, John Lucas kind of fits the narrative and fits the things they're going for well. So I think he is possibly favourite and maybe best fit for that one. Jeff Van Gundy's got a history with Houston. Could that play into it at all? Would he go back there, or do you think he'd want to go somewhere else? At the moment, those will be the 2 that I'd be swaying towards for that Houston job, mainly for those 2 factors. One is cheap, knows the system, knows the players, knows the owners. It's comfortable and it's ready to go. The other one, good history with the club, had a good record while he was there. Been out of the league for a long time in terms of coaching, so could be relatively cheap compared to others. Those were the ones I would decide on. What about you?
Well, I'm going to push you for a name though, because we're going to write down our predictions. I would probably go Lucas as well, or my second favorite would be Cassell. A lot of people talk about his kind of defensive game plans. And apparently he's a good leader, good voice. Doc Rivers really respects him, and kind of that fits that narrative quite well. I don't know if I like Jeff Van Gundy, so I'm a little bit biased. I'm not sure what I think about Jeff Van Gundy. And he's been linked to so many jobs now. I get a little bit stressed trying to predict him to win any jobs, because he just let me down year after year. I think his brother's got a better chance of getting a job than him. So my actual prediction will be John Lucas. I will go with for this exercise. Which one of those two final names are you going to go with?
Do you want me to be boring, or do you want me to make it interesting?
I want you to go what you really think, and we'll see how many we get right.
I think Lucas as well then.
Okie dokie. Cool. Let's move on to an Eastern team then. Let's go Pacers. Chauncey Billups, well, again, Ty Lue was favourite. Yeah, Ty Lue was favourite. Billups was second favourite. They both were swiped up in one move. There was another report saying that Billups could still be head coach if he doesn't get the... he could still switch to the Pacers if he gets offered the full-time job. But another report said that's not true, and he's just signed on as assistant. So I'm going to go with that. So he's gone. So in terms of candidates, the Pelicans assistant, Chris Finch, who's a bit of an offensive guru, apparently, he is the lead contender. Jason Kidd is next in the betting. Mike D'Antoni very closely behind, and a distant fourth is Kenny Atkinson. In terms of Chris Finch, he is a Pelicans assistant, like I said, but he is not interviewed or linked heavily with the actual Pelicans job, which is the one we're going to talk about next, which is crazy. He's just linked to the Pacers job. Apparently, he's got relationships with the GM that's there, and he's got links with, I think it's the vice president of basketball operations. I think he used to play with him. But yeah, he's favourite. Jason Kidd, D'Antoni, and Atkinson. I'll go first on this one. I don't know enough about Chris Finch, but obviously reports are coming out that he is heavily favourite. So it's hard to really look past him. But I know initially they were very keen on Mike D'Antoni, and I wonder why that's kind of soured a little bit, whether it's him souring on them or them souring on him. So I think he's out of it. So I think it's between Kidd and Finch. I'm going to go with... I think Jason Kidd is going to get the job for the Pacers. I don't really know why. I don't want to pick the favourite for every job. And Kevin O'Connor from The Ringer reported that his interview allegedly went really well with Jason Kidd, and he's kind of gone up the pecking order quite a lot between what they thought was going to be their candidates and what was the candidates. What couple of names stand out most to you, and ultimately, who's your pick for the job?
Yeah, well, Kidd's obviously had a good year under Frank Vogel.
That does help.
Yeah, that will have helped him improve as a coach as well, because he certainly wasn't the finished article stepping straight into coaching, and I think he's learning a lot every year, which is really good to see. I like Kenny Atkinson and what he brings potentially to the table. Yeah, you're right. With D'Antoni, it seems to have gone a bit quiet, and I wonder why that is. And same as you, I don't really know much about Finch. So on that basis, although Finch is probably going to get it and be favourite, I'm going to go with D'Antoni sneaks in there and still gets it.
Oh, nice. It came out today as well that Kidd apparently is not near the top of the Pelicans candidates. So if he's kind of out of that job, I do wonder if he's desperate for this Pacers job. And if D'Antoni is out on, obviously, the Rockets and OKC don't want him, I think Kidd or D'Antoni could be fighting quite hard for this job between them.
Yeah. It's going to be, this one's going to be a very interesting one, I think.
Cool. Let's move on to next one. I'm writing all this down as well, so we can actually track who gets this, who gets more right. So Pelicans job, obviously, Alvin has left the building. Very young team, as we all know. In terms of favourite, Stan Van Gundy, not Jeff. It's kind of leapt out to be joint favourite with Will Weaver, who is the head coach of the Sydney Kings. Obviously, I don't know a lot about him, but they have a very impressive record under. Not Will Wheaton from Big Bang Theory / Star Trek, is it? Star Trek. Yeah. No, not him. Will Weaver. He's an ex-player, I think, as well. Sydney Kings head coach at the moment. And then the other favourite, as always, is Mr. D'Antoni. This one, I just honestly, think Stan Van Gundy's going to get. I know it ended quite poorly in Detroit, but before that, he's had a couple of good years. Obviously, he had that one playoff year, the 2 years prior. He's not the same as his brother in terms of how many years he's been out. Obviously, he's only been out I think it's 1.5 seasons.
No,
So he's a little bit of a different.
Successful with that Orlando team as well.
Yeah, he was. So I like Stan Van Gundy, opposite to Jeff. I think it's a little bit of yeah, I think it's a little bit of bias coming in here. So I'm gonna go Big Stan to get that job. What about you?
Just go back through the odd favourites because.
So Stan Van Gundy was basically joint favourite with Will Weaver, who was the head coach in Sydney. D'Antoni was on the list, and then, like I said, Kidd was fourth, but a report came out today to say that apparently Kidd's off the list now. So only those three names that are heavily linked. Another one, is Phil Handy, actually.
Oh, that's handy.
This has just come through on Twitter. Yeah, this is quite handy. And Phil Handy, he's an assistant as well. I think he was a Spurs assistant originally. And now he's with the Lakers as a trainer. So obviously an ex-player as well. So Phil Handy's on that list as well.
Because it surprised me Mark Jackson's not getting a mention. And
it doesn't surprise me. Mama, there goes that man.
There goes that man. Let me talk to you about some pointless things. And obviously I'm a big Nate McMillan fan. But if
you do like a bit of Nate.
If the names aren't coming up, it's difficult to say. So
you could go with an outsider. Go with Big Nate for a job. I know you love him.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna back him. Outsider Nate McMillan steps in, saves the Pelicans. They win championship.
God, put a bet on. Get even better odds than your 40-1
for coach plus win. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you would. Insane odds. Cool. All right, I'll write that one down. Little outsider. I like that. Next, we have OKC. This is similar to the Rockets, where there's a little bit of a clear kind of pathway of what they're thinking. They're linked to mainly not young necessarily, but more inexperienced head coaching people that have never done it before, have only done it in other leagues, not in the NBA. They're all assistants within the NBA at the moment. So the favourite at the moment is Dan Craig, who's a Heat assistant, similar to Jason Kidd. He's obviously had a great year with his team, so that kind of helps.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Keefe, who is an ex-OKC assistant. He was there for years, and then he's had a year with the Knicks because obviously they offered him more money to come across. So that's an interesting one because he's got history. And then Will Hardy is the other one. He's a Spurs lifer, and we kind of all know what Spurs assistant coaches go on to do.
Yeah.
They go on to do very well. And if I'm honest, I can't pretend to know anything about these people. I've only read on them today. And I am just going to randomly go with the third favourite, who is Will Hardy, who's the Spurs assistant, because I think why not? The Spurs make a lot of good coaches, Ben. So I'm going to kind of stick my neck out on the line and go for Big Will. Big Willie, we call him.
On the opposite front of Big Willie, I'm surprised Becky Hammond's not being mentioned.
She was, to be fair, she was sixth favourite, for the Pacers job. She was a bit of an outsider, but the article said that rumours are that obviously she's kind of groomed to be the next head coach of the Spurs. So would she want to leave such a good organisation for kind of a worse run organisation, I guess?
Yeah, and I think she's tied into that job for when Pop leaves with Tim as her assistant. So I think that's why would she leave that kind of organisation? It's obviously a great organisation. Why would you? I'm going to go another one you have not mentioned for this job because I think he'd be a really good fit for this team and help develop them. And he's done really well with what he's had so far.
Don't say Jeff Van Gundy.
No, Mark Jackson. No, Kenny Atkinson.
Kenny, yeah, very good with young players.
Yeah, I think Kenny would be great there. Give him a 5-year deal, get rid of all the old players, those draft picks start rolling in. He could be great for developing the talent there.
They got a lot of draft picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, he's not one or two favourite for any job, and he
I know.
hasn't been apart from the Bulls job, obviously, which he didn't get. He was up there for that, and I just wonder why not. I wonder whether he got his kind of heart set on the Bulls and kind of
Put all
other
his eggs.
teams shied away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, cool. So that's those four open jobs. Obviously, the Clippers job, 76ers, Rockets. I think that's it, isn't it? They've all got filled now. So you've got those 7 teams. Which of those 7 teams do you think is the best job? And which of them is the worst job, do you think?
Knicks is the worst job, hands down.
And the Knicks. Sorry, that's the
Right
8th. Correct. Yeah.
Best job. Depends what you like, I guess.
What do you like, Ben?
Well, here we go then. In terms of putting a stamp on a team and developing a team and making it your own, OKC is the best job.
Yeah, there's not a lot of pressure on that job either, is there?
No. But in terms of working with a talented roster that have a massive amount of potential and that you can hit the ground running with, that Pelicans job looks very tasty. That would be me. What about you?
I would agree. Yeah, the worst job is probably the Knicks. Well, I don't know, actually. Houston is a hard job to take because they've won so much and they've got so much money tied into 2 players and an older roster.
Yeah, true.
So, and I'm biased towards the Rockets. Houston at the Knicks. I don't know. It's quite tough to go Rockets. Just keep the hatred going. Obviously, got a new GM. Don't know how good he's gonna be. The owners allegedly wants to be a bit skint and wants to be a bit tight. So I'm going to go with the Rockets as the worst job, closely followed by the Knicks. The best job, I'm going to go with the Clippers. I just think that's the most pressure, but the easiest path to winning a title out of all of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with that. Just about. Well, I agree with you. The OKC one is really appealing for a younger coach, and if they give you like a 3, 4, 5 year deal and say, look, we want to kind of be a playoff team like a good playoff team in 5 years. You've got a 5 year deal. If by end of year 4 we're not looking like a top team, you're gone. You've got 4 years of like 9 first round picks.
Yeah.
And all that cap space in 1 year's time after all your vets have gone, unless you trade them all. So yeah, I'd probably go OKC or the Clippers for different reasons. And last question then, which head coach so far? Obviously, we've got Tibbs to the Knicks. We've got Ty Lue to the Clippers. We've got, forgot his name, Doc Rivers to the 76ers. And then we've got Billy Donovan to the Bulls. Which of those was your favourite hire so far?
Ty Lue to the Clippers, I think. Makes sense. Just fits best. What about you?
I don't know if any of them are that great. I think Ty Lue, like I said, I think he's a great fit for 2 years. But I think that contract, he's had an absolute result getting that contract because
I think
he knows well and truly that unless both of those stars re-sign, both of them, he's not going to be there for 5 years because I think they're going to have to rebuild in 4 years' time because they've got no draft picks. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have to kind of trade their players to rebuild again.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, for 2 years, that's an amazing hire. So I think I was a bit harsh there. He is a good hire. So yeah, I'll go with him as well. And Tibbs is, I don't know. A lot of people would say Tibbs is the worst hire, but
Tibbs is my second.
It's really hard to look past the fact that 76ers have a ball-stopping, stodgy sort of inside offense already. Yeah. And then you add Doc Rivers, who kind of, as the season goes on, is known for kind of just going one-on-one basketball, kind of in the paint, rebound a lot. He's a very old-school coach, and he's already got old-school players. So I wonder if, we all kind of want them to change, but I wonder if they're going to lean more into this and it's going to go badly. Yeah, it's hard to know which is the worst hire, but I think Ty Lue is the best hire. But we forgot Steve Nash.
Oh yeah, of course.
Stuff it. I love Steve Nash. Nicest man in basketball. He can win every award. Best coach ever. Let's go. Best hire, Steve Nash. Love it.
Done.
KD, Steve Nash, going to win it all. Also, they're on a podcast together the other day. Very good.
Oh.
Cool. Yeah, give that a listen to. I can't remember what it is. I'll link you to it.
I've heard lots of rumors about that podcast because the one Kyrie went on one and he said, "Oh, it's nice to know I've got someone to pass to that can make a shot like I can," and it didn't go down very well for a lot of people.
No, it did go down badly. I agree with him though. It's nice for him to have a top 3-point shooting big for the first time in his life. You know, true superstar who can win that finals game.
Definitely a better 3-point shooter. That's all I got. After that, the comparison stopped.
Well, I know who I'd rather score a point at the end of a game, but we disagree on that, so that's a debate for another day. And on that note,
one of our summer pods, eh? I say summer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. On that note, we are gonna leave it there. We've got a couple of little things just to end on. Ben's got a little bit of info about the playoff bracket we did and who won that.
Yeah, so we put it out on Twitter. We had lots of people enter, and I've just closed the whole window, which is fantastic. But we do have results in from it, and it was a joint winner. You can't write it, between myself and a guest we've had on the show, Rich Barrett.
Yeah, and we're giving. Well, I'm giving as the nominator. I'm giving Rich the title because he's not the person who came up with the bracket idea. So I'm stealing that away from Ben. Ben wins enough. He loves LeBron James, so I'm giving it to Rich, the poor Celtics fan who keeps losing in the playoffs.
The funniest thing though is, for those of you who entered the bracket, you will know you have to pick a tiebreaker, which is points difference at the end of game one of the finals. And me and Rich both put 8 points. So we tied on like absolutely everything, right down to the tiebreaker. So, which was great. So and then tied.
We're giving it to the better looking one, aren't we, Ben?
Rich. Yeah. Rich is taking it hands down. And then another tie behind us two. The names on the sheet are Maldwin Magic, which I know is Joel, who came on and did our sneaker chat, and Dino 13, which you have pointed out is Ginger Shack.
Well, might be Ginger Shack. I can't confirm that. He's the only Dean I know that listens to the podcast. So.
And then our very own Liam Horsley coming in just behind that. So there's your top
I went with the Lakers and Clippers losing in round one because I hate both teams. So I was using my heart, Ben, not my head. So my next year playoff brackets as Knicks champions of the East is going to be perfect. So I'll win next year. Don't worry.
It's going to be a Knicks Mavs final.
Yeah, let's go. Melo play for both teams.
Yeah,
1 game each. So yeah, that was our bracket. And then, like I said, a little thing to finish on. We've got some really cool episodes planned for the off season. Like I said, we don't know any confirmed dates for the new season. We've obviously got the draft, which has a date. Free agency's looking like start of December, so we've got episodes around them. We're going to get Joe Holbert on, who was on an episode before, to do a bit of a free agency chat with us at some point. Yeah. We're going to find a couple of draft experts to give their opinions that might be different to mine, because I kind of study the draft. Ben likes to stay away from the draft. He's too busy. He's teaching our kids in this country. He's got no time with these students from America.
No time. Plus, it really hurts me that our sporting system is not like theirs. But that's the whole thing we'll get into at some point.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of those episodes planned. We're going to do, obviously, 2021 season previews when we know the teams, some predictions. We're going to get some interviews with fan accounts, which will be good. We're going to do a top players of all time episode. We did our top 10 current players, so we're going to do a top 10 of all time, which we will definitely disagree on.
100%.
I already know that for a fact. Maybe we'll do like a 5-minute refresh of what we change about our top 10 current players, or top 5 maybe. Now we've had another few months. So we'll see. But then we kind of wanted any listeners to either DM us or reply to us on Twitter, or message me or Ben privately with any guests that you might like us to try and get, and any episode topics that they might want. I think that's the plan, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. I'd quite like to do one where we draft either players or things, if you can think of categories, maybe like don't know, people from film or whatever that we think would make a good basketball team, stuff like that. It can be stupid, it can be serious, but let's hear from you guys as well. Give us some ideas, and we'll put the shows out there and give you a shout out when we do.
Yeah, maybe in the off season we could do a little rule where every episode we have a little stupid topic at the end to finish on. Me and Ben will work on that, and if you guys send us some ideas, we can add in. And then the last one to announce is with NBA UK fans, Rich again, Dan Healy from Miami Heat UK as well, and I think Garrett as well from Orlando Magic should be involved. We're doing an alphabet challenge. It's going to be on this channel, and I think we might post a YouTube video as well. Basically, where we draft the best player with each letter of the alphabet, and there's going to be either drinking or Twitter-related forfeits for anyone who has a bad shout. AKA, when I say Carmelo for C, I'm probably going to have to drink some copious amounts of alcohol.
I would definitely be in on this if I'm free.
Yeah, we can do it on a Friday. Hopefully, Ben can join us. If not, it will be me hosting, but either it'll be me or Ben hosting and the other one of us joining in probably. But yeah, that's going to be in the next month or so. So keep your eyes out for that. And I think, Ben, that was a good place to leave it. And just a big thank you to everyone for listening during the time when we had no basketball. It really meant a lot to us. And then when we had basketball, it was fun for the listeners. And kind of just hope that everyone sticks around during the off season and kind of gets involved and kind of helps us grow the channel and kind of grow the topics we talk about. So a big thank you to everyone listening.
Yeah, what an amazing first kind of season we've had. So thank you to everybody. It's just great that we have anybody listening, let alone people listening week in, week out. So this is all for you guys. So thanks so much.
Yeah, definitely. And thanks to you, Ben, for joining me. You are a little bit awkward because you have a proper job. But thank you for joining me, even if you make me do a 7 a.m. podcast every now and then.
Well, I don't sleep like a normal person, so I work to my timetable sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We're going to be back weekly, so we will speak to you next week.
Yes, speak to you all soon.